Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where it's about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Outer Range. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. This episode's a lot of setup. Not quite sure, because all I saw for this was the teaser trailer, and I read a tiny bit about it, and I was like, wait, is there supposed to be like a supernatural element to this? I wasn't sure. So we get introduced to the Abbott family. Obviously a lot of familiar faces. Josh Brolin, Lily Taylor, Tom, I'm always going to butcher his last name, Prefery. I'm sure I'm butchering it every time. Also didn't realize the actor who plays Rhett is it's Bill Pullman's kid, because I was like, oh, interesting. Because I saw the last name Pullman, I was like, wait, is he? It's like, yeah, that's Bill Pullman's son. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Tangents and all that aside, we get introduced to this family, and just seems like they're just kind of like a regular cattle ranch family. We kind of early on here talks about Rebecca, and it's not till later on in the episode we really find out, like, oh, what that's all about. We find out that Perry's wife, Rebecca, went missing 9 months ago, and because Sheriff Joy comes to stop by to be like, yeah, the FBI's not looking anymore, or at least she's not a priority anymore because it's 9 months, and now it seems like maybe she might have left of her own volition. So, but what was really interesting though is that Royal ended up, when they were looking for cattle at one, because they're missing at least 2 cattle, he ends up finding this pit. And I don't know if it's me, or did the pit get bigger in the episode? I think it does seem like it did get bigger, but maybe that might have just been my imagination. But he's examining it, he throws a rock in it, doesn't hear. I'm like, because at first I couldn't tell, I was like, is that just a hole, or is there something there? And it's like, there is something. Well, not just on the surface. You can see it floating on the surface, but it seems like it goes all the way down to the hole. So something's there. And so he touches it, and the moment he touches it, he has a flash of something, and it's him and his wife, and it's like, oh, Joy's here. Aren't you going to say hello? And he goes to the house later on, and that exact conversation plays out. You're like, whoa. Okay, so earlier in the episode, he was having this whole conversation about Kronos and his sickle, how it separated this world from the next, and all that, and you're like, okay, so is that like a time pit, or what is that whole thing? And it is fascinating that Royal didn't tell anybody, and the question is, why didn't he? I'm assuming maybe there's going to be some more going on with, maybe he's just not a normal guy or something. I don't know what to expect, because Cecilia told a story to Amy at one point during the story, because she's like, oh, I want to know how you and Grandpa met. It's like, oh, your grandpa doesn't remember his parents, just like wandered onto a ranch not really remembering anything. I'm like, okay, difficult amnesia story, but he walked up to this ranch, and Cecilia was like, yeah, I kind of felt like I was waiting my entire life for him. Someone's like, okay. Because immediately my brain starts rummaging, like, okay, we're going to find out. He's an alien or something. Because at first when the circle appeared, I was like, it's supposed to be like a crop circle type of thing. But then it was like, no, it's a literal hole in the earth that has some weird particles like floating around it. And the moment Royal touched it, he got a glimpse of the future potentially. And then the fact is, the moment he pulled his hand out, like whatever it was, seemed like it got absorbed into his skin. I don't know. At the same time, there's this weird lady named Autumn who was like, yo, I want to spend time on your ranch, and it's really nice to meet you. The way she was talking to Autumn, it was almost like she knew who he was. And you're just like, wait, what? Like, that's the interesting thing, that this is definitely... this series gets labeled as a mystery, and I can definitely see them like setting up like mysteries, because she seems to be the biggest enigma, especially when Royal talks to her later on. He's like, you should probably avoid going to this side of the pasture. I told you could have the west side of the pasture, but just might want to avoid all that. She's like, no, I'm gonna be okay. He's like, how do you know that? She's like, yeah, just, she almost has this thing of things are play out the way they're meant to. And he was like, yeah, but what if things don't play out good? What if they play out just like that possum you're eating? And she's like, how much you want to, like, how much would you sell this ranch for? He's like, it's not for sale. Like, my wife would never sell it. Like, it's been in her family for 100 years. Yeah, that's your wife. We're talking about you. 5-6 million. You're talking like you haven't. She's like, maybe I do. That's why I was like, are you, because even when she dropped the money at first, even, what was it, Rhett that was with him being like, what kind of person drops that kind of money and doesn't have a car? And all Royal said was her. So it's like, is she like some like filthy rich million or billionaire that like came here? Because she says like, oh, I'm a poet, came here for inspiration and such. Like, she made a point to come here, and she's like, oh, I just want to camp here for a couple of days. I'm like, okay. She happens to pop up around the same time this hole pops up. Once again, why hasn't Royal told anyone about it? And then later on, we see her drawing stuff in her books, and it's like some circle stuff and some stuff. You're like, what is your deal, lady? You just come out of nowhere, and you want to be here in a ranch. Just something's off. Once again, the family's already dealing with so much already because of the Rebecca thing. I should also note the actress who plays Joy. I was like, hey, from Coroner. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I said, quite a few familiar faces, like the actor who plays Luke. Obviously, I know from some stuff here and there, but mainly, most recently, I'd say Krypton is the thing I know him best for. But tangents and all that side. Oh, also DC connection-wise, their dad, Wayne, was in Swamp Thing. So I was like, oh, hey. But you also recognize that actor from Remember the Titans, Swamp Thing. There was some other stuff I recognize him from. But regardless, all that aside, Wayne seems to have some kind of connection to this too, because the entire episode, Royal is hearing the rumble. He's like, did you hear that? And you're like, what are you talking about? He's like, because at one point, Cecilia was like, oh, it's time for church. And he's like, what? It's going to be late for church. It's only 8 o'clock. It's like, no, it's 10. And he's almost like, what? And you're like, when he was out, this is before he fully discovered the hole. He just kept hearing the rumbling and he was checking on the cattle. But it's like, did he lose time? They're also setting him up to be very old-fashioned in the way he approaches a lot of stuff. It seems like he avoids having a cell phone and stuff like that. I definitely get Walt Longmire vibes from him. But that might just be like a typical, like, ranch person thing, kind of like a very old-school ranch mentality of probably not really messing with technology like that. But that just seemed really interesting to me. Because they're also dealing with Wayne's family is trying to extend their land. It's like, right, your fences are like a mile onto our land, so you need to move like back a mile. The others, like Trevor in particular, was kind of a douchebag about it. It's like, yeah, this is going to get done. Luke tried to be like the more reasonable, like, right, I'm sorry about this. It's nothing personal. It's just business, especially after everything your family's been through, obviously with the Rebecca situation. But Trevor was just the one that was complete and utter tool about it. Billy was just back there just doing his own thing. So there's that. They make a point of it, but they're also just kind of like, it is what it is, and they don't really Royal and his sons don't really make much of a. They fought a little bit there about it, but that was about it. They don't really bring it up, so I'm like, did you tell Cecilia about that, or what? Because also, interesting, speaking of the Autumn thing, it's like, that never came up in conversation either, because it's like, yeah, Royal just kind of gave her the okay, and the only person that knows about it is Red. I mean, I'm assuming the others do too, but no one said anything about her. Like, it doesn't seem, there was no conversations between Cecilia and... at least, not that I remember, Cecilia and Royal about it, and it doesn't seem like anything came up about it with Perry either. Then we get the whole situation at the bar. Obviously learning a little bit more of the intricacies of the family and learning how Rhett's, kind of starting to doubt himself with this whole bull riding thing because his most recent attempt didn't go well. It's also the fact is, hey, there's the girl I've always had a crush on, but I've always made excuses of like why things have never happened between us. And obviously Perry kind of dealing with everything about, as he says, he's at the end of his ropes with this whole Rebecca thing, trying to find his way forward, him and Amy throughout it all. And Red even saying, like, oh, you should move on. He's like, move on from what? It's like, from Rebecca. He's like, I'm sorry, that was something stupid of me to say. And I think it's just, he doesn't really know how to handle it. Like, should I really just move on? I can't move on because it doesn't make sense. Why would she leave? She wouldn't just leave and abandon Amy like that. So, and obviously with this hole, you're just kind of like, all right, is there a correlation between Rebecca's disappearance and this hole? There's also the whole aspect of, right, you're missing cattle. Like, did they fall into that hole? Because there is that bison. I'm only knowing that I'm not well versed in just like animals and stuff. I only know it because I'm like, oh, like the subtitle says bison, so I'm like, and it's got 2 arrows in it. You're like, what's that about? Because not only did Royal see it earlier in the episode, but later on, Rhett and Perry see it. So I don't know what to make of that. Especially with this whole conversation about Kronos, I find it interesting because in American Gods, like, I believe it's a bison, constantly pops up as like from a symbolic standpoint. And like, you know, if American Gods literally deal with gods, it's something that like Shadow kept seeing all the time. So I'm wondering, like, is that a constant correlation? 'Cause I was thinking that was just something for American Gods. I wondered, they have some symbolic connection to gods, or maybe a specific god. I don't think anything came up in American Gods about Kronos, so, like, I don't know if it might just be, I don't know. But all this talk about Kronos, and now there's also this, like, bison and stuff. But regardless, I guess this kind of plays into it a little bit, how for Rhett, there's always something else. Like, obviously for him and Maria, like, their lives didn't go the way they wanted to. She went to college to be a vet, but she's like, I burned out and decided to come home because, you know, I missed home and other things. Rhett still hasn't left the family ranch, even though he has his ideas of, like, right, if Dad had sold the ranch 10 years ago, is like, Dad's about to lose the ranch because I guess they're just not making enough of a profit to balance out maybe, like, the upkeep of it and such. But, Rhett was actually going to talk to Maria about, like, oh, like, you know, that dance that his brother was like, yo, you get your ass up and you ask that girl to dance. But then every, you know, shit hits the fan. I'm surprised at that time Perry didn't do anything. It wasn't until Rhett stepped in, because I guess Rhett's kind of like the younger brother that's like, yo, you want to talk shit, get hit? And he ends up laying Trevor out. And then he's like, right, I'm going to pull up with the truck, and, like, he leaves and Maria leaves, and then just Perry's there, and then Trevor does the stupidest thing and runs his damn mouth about, like, oh, I actually felt bad for your family after everything, but he's going to take everything from you. It's like, oh, what, you don't have anything to say? Like, and made reference to Rebecca leaving him, and then Perry proceeds to beat the ever-living shit out of him. You're like, cool, stop. Okay, cool. This is awesome. This is good. I mean, hell, because even as he was leaving to go around back to get the truck, Rhett tapped on the table where, like, Billy and Luke were sitting, and there was blood on his fist from the initial, like, 1 or 2 punches he landed on Trevor. So now he pulls up on the truck, and him and just Perry are looking at each other, and he's like, right, Perry, you need to tell me what you want to do. You want to go to the hospital? Do you want to go to the sheriff? And they go back home instead, and their dad stumbles across it, and it's like, so what are you guys going to do? And he does what he's like, right, this family's already been through enough, your brother's already been enough, I'm not going to let him go to jail, but I'm not going to let you go to jail either. He knows of something he hasn't told his family about, the whole hole in the ground. Like, right, toss the body in there, make it disappear, because he tried everything, like, to cover it up, to try and fill it with dirt, and none of that worked. So it's like, right, it's out there, I'm going to take advantage of it and use it. I need to make this better for my family. I guess maybe they heard from Maria or something, but they found the belt buckle outside, and I don't know whose belt buckle that was outside. Either that was Rhett or Perry, like, it's either, like, the Abbott family's, like, buckle, or it's something from their family, because for them to jump to immediately go, like, go to the Abbott ranch looking for Rhett, because I guess they must start, well, went in probably talking to Maria and asked, like, cause at first Luke was like, oh, have you seen my brother? And it was probably like, oh, last time I saw him, he was out back. Now he's not back there. He found the belt buckle. So it's like, okay, something's going on. Immediately rush over to Abbott Rancher's like, yo, where's your brother? Abbott, and it's like, oh, I don't know where he is. Oh, what happened to your hand? Trying to signal his dad and brother that was pretty smart, using the light switch, and their backs are turned to it so they can't see it, but signaling his dad and brother in the barn. Made sure to cover. I wonder where Rhett is, because he was supposed to like burn the clothes, I believe, and also I guess they didn't have time to clean the truck given the amount of time, so they just put hay there to kind of block it. So they go out onto the ranch looking, because like they know something's up. It's like, you must have done something to our brother. So they're on the truck and a 4-wheeler, like, and Royal disposes of the body. I mean, it doesn't look good because you went through the fence, you left your shirt behind. The questions be like, why'd you come over all the way out here? What were you doing? Tosses the body in there, and it just sinks. And the moment the light hits him, I'm like, oh, that's got to be Autumn. We know she's in the area, and lo and behold, it is. And I wasn't quite sure how that scene was going to play out, because at first I was like, is he going to get nervous and toss her in there? But it's like, right, the whole thing at the beginning where he's talking about Kronos, she's actually the one that said it, and he just like, so I thought that's fascinating. So rather than, she's the one that says the whole thing about like Kronos and stuff like that. She's like, right, him cutting a hole in between this world and the next is the reason why we have time. Which I didn't know Kronos used a sickle. I haven't seen that many interpretations of Kronos, but I didn't know you had a sickle. You just didn't seem like the god of sickles. I guess just when I think of sickle, like, powerful beings, I just immediately think of death, and symbolize you, or a Grim Reaper / death, or just Shinigami in general. I think of like kind of like Scythe and stuff like that. But regardless, because she had made that whole point earlier about like, right, a woman's got to have her secrets. What are some of your secrets? I'll be here in case you ever want to tell me any. And now it's like, no, don't worry. I'm not going to tell anyone about this. This is our secret. Like, how many people know about this? And he was like, no one. And she's like, why is that? Don't worry, I'll protect you. She's like, been waiting for something like this. And then pushes him, and I was like, oh. Like I said, I was thinking like, oh, please don't toss her in there. Because you'll also notice, it's just kind of, and I think this is kind of significant, when you look at like the, I don't know if it pops up like this anywhere else, but looking at the IMDb for it, it's like, that character's name is Autumn. She's like the only character that doesn't have a last name, and you're like, that's interesting. And I'm sure that's on purpose, because she's supposed to be like this wandering stranger that just happens to come into their lives. So there's this big secret between her and Royal now about not only is it this pit, but also the fact is you threw a body in there. So crazy way just to end off the episode. Like I said, I don't know what to fully make of heads or tails. It's just kind of a lot of setup, and also just like, wait, what's going on? What's this all about? Obviously, there was another episode already out, so I'll immediately watch that afterwards and maybe get some more context. But this is just my raw thoughts about the first episode alone, and just what this could be. And like I said, it has something to do with time. And part of me was almost wondering, being pushed in there. This is my thought. Having not seen anything of the second episode, have not seen anything other than the teaser trailer, and even then it's been a while. And this thing has some correlation to time, because he saw the future. If he goes in that pit, will it rewind time? It's what I'm wondering. So, will he be able to go back in time before Trevor gets killed? What does that mean that Trevor's body's in there? So I don't know. Because I just see the thumbnail of the second episode, and it's of Royal, and you're like, okay, so you somehow managed to come out of the pit. What? I don't know what to think. It just seems so like weird and out of left field. So I don't know what to fully make of it. So I'm very, very interested to see where the next episode is going to take us with this. But until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.